How much can you make a year flipping houses? By the end of this video, you're going to learn what's possible in your first year of flipping houses and how you can build that income over time. Everybody wants to know, how much can you actually make flipping houses full-time? In this video, I'll share with you the variables that will determine your yearly income and how you can scale from a part-time flipper to a full-blown business. The good news is you don't need to flip 100 houses a year to reach six figures. I'm going to show you how many of our students do that in their first year with just a couple of flips. Your income really depends on the profit you make per deal and then how many deals you do in a year. Multiply those two together and you'll come up with your annual income in a year for flipping houses. There's lots of different deal types in flipping houses. There's wholesale deals where you're just flipping paper. There's as-is deals where you literally buy a house and then sell it as is without ever touching it. There's repair flips where you buy a house, just needs a few dollars in repairs, maybe a few $1,000s in simple repairs, and then you fix that and sell it. Then there's what's called a cosmetic flip, where you replace flooring, paint, kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, very simple, easy things, and then sell that. That's the most common flip like you see on TV. Then there's a full renovation flip, where you put a brand new roof, or you rearrange the floor plan, or whatever that might be. Then you've got what's called a value add flip, where you actually add more square footage to the house by converting an attic or adding actual square footage by building an addition on the house. Whichever one of those you choose has its own scope of work and its own timeline and will determine how many you can actually do in a year. So a wholesale is what we call a paper flip. A paper flip is literally when you put a house under contract, then you sell that contract to another cash buyer. Usually on a wholesale, or what we call a paper flip, you'll make on average about $15,000 if you're doing it right. If you're new, you might make $5,000 to $10,000. But this is when you find the house and sell it to another cash investor. You never actually own the property and you never set foot in the house besides to look at it and take pictures to sell it to another investor. Again, that's called a paper flip. Because there's no scope of work and no actual work that goes in the property, you can actually do a lot of those in the course of a year. They're not nearly as easy as some people make them sound. They're a great way to make income, but I believe only if you already have a great machine that's generating leads for you on a daily basis. Then you can start to wholesale properties while you cherry pick, looking for the better deals for yourself. Next is the as-is flip. Believe it or not, every year we do a handful of deals where we just buy the house and sell it as is. Those don't come along every day, and I believe the only way you really find those is by having a marketing machine where you're looking to buy people's houses. And you find someone who's just sick and tired of being sick and tired and they just want out of the house. It reminds me of a house we bought one time from a guy who wanted $75,000 for a house that I knew was worth $150,000 as it sat. I didn't trust the salesperson working for me, so I wanted to meet this person myself directly. So my wife and I drove to his home and met with him, and I said, "Can I ask you a question? Why would you want to sell this house for $75,000? It doesn't need any kind of work." He said, "Because Glenn, I am 62 years old, I'm recently divorced, my wife left me, and I'm done, and I just want to move to Florida. If you give me $75,000 and give that to me in 30 days, I'm out of here and the house is yours." I said, "Yes, sir." Shook his hand and bought that house. We put it on the market the day after we closed and sold it for $159,000. Made a $75,000 profit on an as-is sale because we were already marketing. Now, if I found those every day, I could do 15 or 20 a year. But truthfully, they're not that easy to find. But if you're already marketing for other deals throughout the year and you're always looking, you will find those deals. They do come along. Next, you have a repair flip. The repair flip is a house that literally needs repairs. You usually find this by networking with mortgage brokers and banks, and you find where a deal falls through because the bank won't fund because maybe it needs paint around the windows where it's got flaky paint. It's a government FHA loan, and they won't fund until that's fixed. Maybe it needs a new hot water heater. Maybe the furnace is broken. Maybe there's some leak in the roof that has to be fixed before the bank will give funding. And the person selling the house either is out of the area, doesn't care, or doesn't have the money to make the repairs. And they just say, "I just want out." And we come in and offer them much less for the house. And then we just make those repairs, which might cost a few $1,000s, and put it back on the market. Reminds me of a house that we bought early in our career that literally needed a hot water heater and a back window repaired. And we made those repairs that cost about $800, put the house back on the market, and made around $65,000 in profit when all was said and done for only repairing the house. Now again, do those come along every day? No. But when they do, They're pretty sweet, but you have to be out there marketing all the time to find those deals. They will fall in your lap if you're in the game. I mentioned next about cosmetic flips. They're the ones we see on HGTV and all the flipping shows on TV. They're the prettiest ones to do. That's where it's a simple repair that almost anybody can do because it requires paint, new kitchen cabinets, new countertop, and in the bathrooms, new bathroom and vanities, and just spruce that house up and make it look brand new on the inside. Cosmetic flips are great. They do take, on average, about 3 to 6 months, depending on how much work you do on the scope of work. Realistically, these are the ones you can find most commonly as you're out there searching for houses to flip. If you're doing it on your own part-time, you could probably do anywhere from 2 to 5 deals a year, depending on your team, depending on the kind of time you can put in, and depending on how quickly you can find the deals. That's the biggest limitation, is how you can find the deals. You might think it's funding, but I tell you, if you spend some time on our channel, you'll learn that funding will never be your problem in real estate investing. You want to find the deals and the money will always find you. Next, you have the full renovation flip. Well, the full renovation flip is just what it says. It needs a roof. It needs to have the furnace repaired. It might need some foundation work. You may have to change the whole floor plan around. It's going to take some more time. Those are usually anywhere from 4 to 8 months of a complete time if you're doing it correctly. So 1 to maybe 2 in a year is realistic if you're doing full-on renovations. But your profits can be substantial in those. They can be over $100,000. And going back to the cosmetic flip, typically you're speaking around a 20% profit margin on those, depending on the area of the country that you're in, but you should be making anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 or more on a cosmetic flip. And lastly we talk about is the value add. The value add is something that Amber and I cut our teeth on way back in the day. We had a certain neighborhood that had 1940s houses that were built, and we became very proficient at taking a vacant attic and converting that attic space into a master suite. I think they call them an ensuite now. But this master suite was amazing. We added a bedroom, we added a bathroom upstairs, and it added square footage to a house that was normally 1,000 square feet, and now this house is about 1,400 square feet. When you add square footage and add bedrooms and bath, you add value to a home, but it takes a little bit longer. It takes about the same amount of time as a full renovation, maybe a little more between a cosmetic flip and a full renovation. And the bottom line is, because you're adding value, you should be able to make significant profits. Again, probably somewhere between 4 months to 8 months to get one of those done. What affects both profit on a deal and the number of deals you can do in a year? Here's a quick list. Price point. The higher the price point, typically the more work that's needed. If you're going to flip a house that's going to sell for $250,000, that's going to have a certain level of expectation to it. If you're going to flip a house that's going to sell for $1.5 million, that's going to have a different level of expectation. Those kitchen cabinets will take a lot longer to come in typically than the house is going to be $250,000 when you're all said and done. So you'll want a lot for the extra time for the fancier houses. But the profit in dollars can be larger. If you're earning 20% on $250,000, it's around $50,000. But if you earn 10% profit on a $1.5 million sale, that's $150,000. So the numbers can be larger while the percentage of profit is actually smaller. Your particular funding on every deal determines how many deals you can do a year. Do you have cash that you want to do it yourself? Do you use other people's money? Which again, look in our channel. There's all kinds of videos on how to use other people's money, which you should be capitalizing on. But how are you funding your deals? Do the lenders that you have, do they allow you to do multiple deals at once? Because you're going to be constrained by how many deals you can do at once, by how much funding you have, and how creative are you in the funding when you talk to sellers? Are you incorporating private lenders, hard money lenders, and creative financing? If you incorporate those 3 methods, you could be unlimited with how many deals you do a year. What kind of systems do you have in place? How are you managing contractors? How are you managing deal flow? How are you managing lead flow that comes from the door? How are you managing selling the properties? How are you managing the renovations? These are all things that you have to determine because your level of success and proficiency in these systems will determine how many houses you can do a year. And what kind of support do you have? Are you trying to do all this work yourself? Because if you are, you're very limited. Or are you trying to develop other leaders underneath you that can help do it with you? The more leaders you develop, the more your business will turn into an actual business and a business that you own, not a business that owns you. Most people start this as a part-time business alongside a full-time job. Matter of fact, as your coach, I highly recommend that that's what you do if you currently have a job. Don't leave your job to start this. Start this on the side and do 3 to 5 deals in a year, or 1 to 2 deals in a year, whatever you're comfortable doing. Or if you're doing wholesale deals, try and do 5 or 10 deals a year. Get your feet wet, decide if it's for you before you decide to go full time. So to summarize all these different ways of flipping, decide which way you want to go after. Let's say it's cosmetic, because that's what you see on HGTV, and that may be what you're thinking about doing. I know you're probably intrigued by the as-is and the repair, but remember, those don't come along every day and they're very tough to rely on. You can rely on a constant stream of cosmetic flips because, let's face it, life goes on. Houses get older. People pass on. They want to sell these houses that need to be updated. So there's always a constant supply of those houses if you know where to look. But let's say that on average, you're making $50,000 a flip and you can do 5 flips in a year. Multiply that times 5, $50,000 times 5, that's $250,000 in profit in a year flipping houses. Is that realistic? Absolutely. Will it take a lot of work? Absolutely. Can we help you get there? Yeah. Spend some time on the channel, get to know us a little bit. We want to help you get there as fast as you want to. We've been coaching students for over a decade, and I have students that have made well over $50,000 on their very first deal. We have one student that made over $250,000 on his very first flip. Now, he was a contractor, so he did a lot of the work himself, but he still made a tremendous profit on a deal because he bought it right, in the right time, in the right city, and did a great job of renovation and taking our advice through it. So it really just depends on you. We have a lot of students that start with 1, and then it grows in year 2. Usually you have 1 to 2 flips in your first year, then year 2, maybe 2 to 5, and then you decide where you want to go from there. Our own personal story is when Amber and I first started back in 2008, we bought our first house to flip in 2007. We sold it in 2008. No help, no guidance, no support, really struggled there. We did 1 the first year, we did 3 houses the next year, then 7 the next year, and then 20 the next year. We were determined to be the largest flipping company in the capital region of upstate New York, and the truth is, we wound up being one of the largest companies in the country that does this. We're in the top 1% of all flipping companies in the country. All because we started with a dream and just said, let's start with 1. But like Amber always says, no matter where you start your business, it all starts with 1. Just get out there and get started. The fastest way to grow your income is to stop guessing and start buying smart. Make more on a per deal basis to increase your annual income. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we evaluate every single deal and this system we put together through blood, sweat, and tears of over 20 years of experience, and I'm going to give it to you for free. Watch the video. If the video's not here, look in the description below and click on that link. It's my gift to you.